Hi, my name is Judy Lin. I'm the author of A Magic Steeped in Poison. It follows the story of Ning, who travels to the palace to join a magical tea competition in order to try and save her dying sister.
Judy Lin is the Taiwanese-Canadian indie and New York Times bestselling author of A Magic Steeped in Poison, a book inspired by Chinese traditions about tea, but with magic. We follow the journey of Ning, a girl who joins a magical tea competition in order to save her sister after she accidentally poisons her family. Hi, I'm Gemma, and welcome to the Red Carpet. I'm so happy to be talking to Judy today about A Magic Steeped in Poison. Hi, Judy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Your new book is influenced by the magic of tea and features a main character struggling to find acceptance with her abilities. Can you tell us more about your book?
So my book, A Magic Steeped in Poison, is set in an empire that is inspired by the Song dynasty in Imperial China. So Ning is a commoner, and she has to travel to the capital in order to join this magic tea competition and to win a favor from the princess because she leaves her dying sister back at home. So along her journey, she encounters backstabbing competitors and court intrigue that's happening in the background. And then she has to use her wits in order to survive the different rounds of the competition and also to make it out alive.
This is your debut book, and it spent its first week at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. How are you feeling?
I was very surprised when my editor called me to tell me the good news. And she had to ask me a couple times if I was okay, just because I was stunned at the news. I'm very, very happy that and grateful for all the love that the booksellers and the librarians and the readers have shown the book. And I'm just thrilled that it's finding an audience.
Did you have any fears or anticipations?
I think that by publishing the book, that was already a dream come true for me. So that it's doing as well as it has, that just is the icing on the cake, to be honest. Just being able to be a published author has always been something that I have dreamed of since I was a teen. So just to be here today with the book in hand is more than I could ever ask for.
In your story, teas are kind of like potions in which you have to make and then ingest them in order for the magic to work. Can you tell us more about the magic system?
So in the magic system, when the practitioner of tea magic, the Shenong Shi, uses the tea leaves and the water, it draws forth magic that is present in the cup of tea that they brew. So they either drink it themselves or they give it to someone else, and it has different physical or emotional properties. So it can conjure up different memories, or it can make them stronger or faster, depending on what the practitioner wants to cause. And the magic is also influenced by the different ingredients that's present and utilized in the tea, and a lot of these ingredients are inspired by traditional Chinese medicine.
Can you tell me how you incorporated tea while interweaving your own traditions into the story?
So I grew up in Taiwan and moved to Canada with my family, but that was one of the traditions that came with me when we moved. So every morning, and even today when I go and visit my parents, they would ask me, like, what tea do you want to drink today? And that particular ritual that is part of the tea brewing process, when I went into my research to start writing the book, I realized that it was actually a particular type of tea ritual that was popular in southern China that came over to Taiwan. So but I didn't really know that. It was just the routine that I grew up with. So I loved reading about that and learning about that history, and that's why I wrote it into the book. Just those very particular steps about tea brewing that I'm familiar with, where you have to use particular water temperature, particular type of water, and the various steps that go into making a perfect cup of tea.
Yeah, I could tell that you put so much of yourself into the book alone just by the influences and your own traditions.
Yeah, that there was definitely a way of connecting back to my culture while living in Canada. I still go back to Taiwan every couple of years, but the process of researching and writing definitely made me feel like I was back home again. So that was a really important part of my writing process.
Your main character, Ning, is driven by guilt to save her sister. Can you tell me more about her character development and feelings of inadequacy?
So when I'm writing, the character arcs are actually one of the last things that I work on, just because it's one of the most difficult things for me as a writer to get into her mind. So it went through a couple of drafts in order for me to really focus on her guilt at being the person who brewed the tea and gave it to her mother and then her sister. And then after her mother dies, she has to deal with the grief too of trying to save her sister and then feeling like she has to go to this competition to try and save her life because of the overwhelming obligation she has. And of course, that I drew on feeling of being like the eldest girl in a traditional Taiwanese family. So there's a lot of expectations to be a good role model and the desire to kind of make our parents proud. So that was a lot of what inspired her journey and also her relationship with her sister. I mean, I have a younger sister, so a lot of that is influenced by my connection with my sister, and of course, leaving home and having to figure out yourself for the first time, being away from family, of having to become independent and make your own choices. So a lot of that drives Ning's character arc.
Speaking of her sister, the book also features a lot of female friendships featuring strong women. Can you tell me more about them?
Oh. So one of the things I wanted to focus on when writing the competition is that I did not want Ning to be like the one woman who is struggling and competing against like a ton of men. So that was one thing I wanted to focus on. And I also wanted her to develop strong female friendships in the competition and not be competing against them. And so what I wanted to write was that's how Lian came to be. So Lian is the person that she had a connection with initially in the competition. And together they worked at the competition rounds. And that was what I wanted to portray. And also there's other strong relationships with women that she develops is when she meets the princess, of course, who she has to win the favor from. So I also wanted to portray women in positions of power, and because in a lot of the Chinese dramas that I watch, a lot of times it is a lot of men once again. So I wanted to make sure that there's also influential women within the palace for Ning to encounter as well. So that was some of the inspirations of and reasons why I wrote a lot of these differing types of strong women into the story.
Exactly. The strong women were one of the biggest takeaways from the book for me personally, just because Lian, the princess, the bodyguard, they were women that all made choices. And, you know, women without agency is not something we want to read or push to our generations or our friends. We want strong women who make these choices. And I think your book knocked it out of the park with how important it is to have these female friendships. So A Magic Steeped in Poison is part of a duology, and both books will be out this year. How did you feel about writing and debuting during COVID while wrapping up the story?
So when the book first sold, I was working on it when COVID was first starting. So it was a little bit of juggling because then I was working from home, and then sometimes I have my daughter at home. So that was kind of a challenge while working on the first book. But we were lucky in that. I was able still to write in the evenings and the weekends, and then while I was working on my second book right after, because of such a tight timeline of when they're going to be released, I found out that I was pregnant, and then the result was that my due date was going to be around the time when the first book would come out. So that was kind of challenging to kind of juggle that. But I mean, I was really lucky in that I had a really smooth pregnancy, and I also have a day job that is very considerate of having holiday time. So I was able to do both. And so it was a learning experience because I was writing the second book while revising my first. But in the end, I think it was good because then I could add a lot of the story details that I wouldn't have been able to do if I wasn't able to make those changes if the first book was already finalized. So there were a lot of pros and cons about that experience, but I survived it. So and now we are here after the launch of the first book. So I can I'm pretty happy with how it went, but it definitely was stressful for parts of it.
Well, I'm sure it was, but congratulations on your baby.
No, thank you.
So how has the reception from the book community been like?
It's been really, really wonderful. And I was a bit nervous at first because, I mean, I didn't know how readers were going to respond to it, but it's just the indie bookstores have been really supportive. The book was on the Kids Indie Next list and in the Indies Introduced program, so I'm very thankful for that. And then just all of the readers who have written their reviews and who have sent me their beautiful photos on Instagram. And it just makes me really happy to see that the book is resonating with many people from all sorts of backgrounds and internationally as well. So it's all a writer can dream of is seeing their story out in the world.
Now that you've debuted, how do you feel about continuing to write?
I'm excited to see what comes next because I do have a couple of different projects in the works. So I can't wait to. I can't really talk about them right now, but I can't wait to share more news of them. And really, like being a writer has been something that I wanted to do since I was a teen. So it just makes me really happy right now that I'll continue to write the stories that involve the different types of inspirations and the types of media that I enjoy. So I'll continue to write stories that are inspired by Chinese and Taiwanese culture, and also all the dramas and the books and the films that I still am watching today, and to bring some of those elements, continue to bring some of those elements to the books, and hopefully the readers will enjoy that as well.
Well, I'm excited to see what you have in store next for us. What are you most excited for readers to experience in the book?
I'm hoping that the readers that I'm able to reach are the ones that are like how I was as a teen, because when I moved to Canada, there were not too many books that have been published in English where they featured characters from Chinese or Taiwanese background, or those cultural elements like the myths and the folk tales and the food and the drinks that I enjoyed growing up. I wanted to make sure that the characters are offering good representation for the teens that I'm writing for, just because I didn't have that experience while growing up. So I wanted them to see some of those elements where that might be a little bit familiar to them, to say, oh, hey, that's the food that I enjoy eating at home, or oh, that storyline seemed kind of familiar, kind of like the dramas that I watch with my parents. So I hope that those are the readers that I really wanted to reach out to the most. And also for my own daughters, when they grow up, I'm just so that they can kind of read it and say, "Oh, Mom, this is one of the stories that you used to tell us when we were kids." And so that is that's what appeals to me about writing this story. And so I've gotten a lot of feedback from readers where they told me that they never thought that some of these elements, like the tea drinking and the food that is being written about, they've never thought it would be in a young adult novel that they would pick up from the shelves and read. And so that makes me really happy too, to hear that feedback from readers. So it makes me feel like one of my goals has been accomplished as an author.
Absolutely. It's me. I feel represented. So thank you so much for that. I do believe that we need more Asian stories, just so that, Asians make up a lot of the percentage here. We don't really see these medias, especially 10 years before, but now that there's such a rise in Asian authors and Asian stories being told, I'm so happy to have found your book. Is there anything you want the readers to take away from your book?
I'm hoping that they will pick up the second book so that they can read the conclusion of Ning's story, because I did imagine it as a full story arc, just about a girl who comes into her powers and becomes independent and kind of comes into her own away from her family, but also seeing the rest of the world that I've created as well in the second book. So I would just like readers to be able to follow her journey and then hopefully see that she's growing stronger in the process, but also bringing back and reconnecting with her family as well. And kind of, it all feels like a circle in a way, leaving and then coming home. And because I think that is something that is a driving element in the stories that I like to tell, is just that connection with my background, with my family, and then just knowing that it's always there for you to come back to.
Oh, how lovely. Your new book, A Magic Steeped in Poison, came out recently. Can you tease the audience with something from the book?
So one of the elements that always draws me into the stories that I enjoy is the idea that people are not what they seem. So I always have fun playing around with that. So you'll meet various characters, but one of the characters that you meet is a mysterious stranger that Ning encounters in the marketplace. And of course, I won't spoil anything, but he is not what he appears. And I had a lot of fun playing around with their relationship, and a little bit of magic, a little bit of romance. So I hope that's one of the relationships that readers will enjoy as well.
I'll just say, I enjoyed his character a lot, a lot. Do you have any upcoming works?
So the sequel to A Magic Steeped in Poison is A Venom Dark and Sweet, and that comes out on August 23rd of this year. So yes, then you can see the conclusion to Ning's story and see what happens after, and the consequences of what happens after A Magic Steeped in Poison. But once again, it explores the world of Dashi a little bit more, because in the first book, we are mainly in the palace. So there's a little bit more development of the magic that's present in the world. So I had a lot of fun writing it. It's different. It's a little bit of different story than A Magic Steeped in Poison, but it still contains a lot of the elements that I love putting into the first. So.
Okay, where can we find your books for purchase?
So my website is judyiLin.com, and then on there you can find links to all of the different sites where you can buy my books.
And where can we find you on social media?
So on Twitter, I am at JudyILin, and on Instagram, I am at JudyILinAuthor.
Thank you so much, Judy. Congratulations on your first book and your baby. I'm sure our audience is going to love Ning and the magic she brews.
Thank you so much for having me on.
My guest today has been author Judy Lin with her book, A Magic Steeped in Poison, available for purchase now wherever books are sold, and the soon-to-be-coming sequel, A Venom Dark and Sweet, coming later in the year. You can find us with more conversations with authors at 24hourkpop.com. I'm Gemma for the Kpop-TV Entertainment Network, and I'll see you next time.